Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. A little bit different today. I'm starting a new series. It's going to be called my Insights series. As a lot of you know, I do a lot of driver coaching, learning circuits, trying to improve times, and obviously I'm on ACC for the first time, I'm going through my own processes. I've got a particular knack for learning things quickly, and that's because I follow an effective learning program that I wouldn't say I've designed myself, but I've definitely implemented it myself and with other friends and people I've coached to try and learn new circuits quickly and effectively to get up to speed as soon as you can really, and to start pushing the limits. So I wanted to share a little bit with you today about that. So we're around Kyalami. It's the first time I've ever been around this circuit that you're watching right now. It's the first time I've driven this car as well. So not the ideal way to hit it as a double whammy between new car and track, but as you can see, I'm just taking things a little bit easier. There's definitely, I mean, there are a few key things that you just need to know. Obviously you need to know what corners are coming up next, and at this point I'm doubling up between looking at the map and trying to keep my vision as far forward as I can, and as clearly it didn't really work there. As you can see, complete new to Kyalami, no idea where the top of that crest went really, but I'm just trying to keep myself sort of a little bit composed, maybe do some short shifting, lifting off where I'm not quite sure where I need to be on the circuit really, and really the things that you're trying to get used to are obviously where the track goes, the bumps are around, what curbs you can use or not use, thinking about the camber of the track, and obviously where to brake. So you're constantly looking out for new points of braking, new things that you can use as references, and that's really one of the key things in trying to learn a new circuit. Once you get the braking down, the rest of it sort of falls into place quite nicely. So I guess my first initial point would be to just take things slow. You see, I braked quite early in that point. I took a lot of curb, just experimenting, not really early on the power, just trying to see where I can and can't go on the track. This is an awkward sort of uphill camber. We know, we now know that curb on the inside we can probably use. It might not be ideal to use as much as we just did, but you know, just very cautious around here, and actually we end up taking it okay for a couple of stabs at the throttle, but we're consistently trying to change our approach and try new things, and it's important to do that really, because if you set out and always try and do as we sort of take a little bit too much curb on the inside there, we make a mistake. But what you've got to get into your head is that making mistakes at this point is what needs to happen to improve. If you constantly do what you've always done, then you'll just do the same thing. So if you don't set out to try and change, try new things, try new gears, try new braking points, try new ways of putting the throttle down for each corner, then you know you're just going to end up becoming stale and stalling your progress on this track. And that's the same for someone who's learning something for the first time, or someone who's going back to a track or a game that they've been previously on or competitive on. So there's definitely a lot of things to sort of start learning. So let's break things down in a little bit more detail. We've done a couple of laps now where we've gone off twice, which is absolutely fine, and we're just thinking about, we're focusing on trying to get roughly the right braking points at the minute. That doesn't mean you have to brake 100%, but roughly around the right thing. So we're looking for this 100-meter board on the right hand side, staying as wide as we can. And we actually missed the apex, that's fine. A little bit of oversteer, just drop down a gear just to see where we're going. Can you clip this curve on the inside? Yeah, a little bit, probably not too much though. And trying to find the best way around this awfully awkward uphill off camber sort of left-hander. I think second gear, a little bit of a lift, a little bit of throttle to keep the car stable. This one super awkward, not really sure where to brake, although that seemed to be roughly the time there. So there was that curve on the left-hand side that was we can use as a reference point. So we definitely turned in a little bit too early there. There's a bit of a bump on the inside, and this chicane where we went off last time used a curb on the right hand side as a braking reference, but we took too much curb on both sides there, and you can see that it caused us to understeer on both occasions and obviously off the track. And starting to learn that this goes a little bit left over the crest, and this is probably going to be first gear. But because it's off camber, downhill, if you try and snatch second gear while you're on full power, you may have that little bit of oversteer that I just caused there. This is easy flat, we know that, we discover that on the first lap pretty much, and there's some handy grey sort of tyre markings on the track there to get roughly where we can brake for this left-hander. Second gear for that one, I think we probably, if we're pushing things a little bit more, we could probably take it first gear. Just when we're really getting down into the trying to find the edge of grip. That would be really useful, I think, to experiment with that. And the same around the last corner, I think second gear there, but it feels like first gear, getting the back of the car rotated and turning a little bit later but tighter is possibly the way forward there. So 100 metre board, again, try and brake in a straight line as you can. Second gear, again, much nicer on the apex. I think potentially first gear there as well. Can we use a bit more curb? Yes, we can. Now we're up into this left-hand corner off camber, much nicer, much smoother through there. A lot of track we can use on the outside, but it's not about finding the limit of the grip at the minute. It's about knowing roughly where to brake, where to turn in. As we turn in a little bit earlier than last time, and you're clipping that curb on the inside, which is okay, caused a little bit of understeer. 50 metre board here. I think we've pretty much got this left-hander down. It seems relatively simple to brake at that 50 metre board, but it's this chicane that we're really struggling with. So turn in a little bit later. See where the black markings are on the curve, that's where we really want to be aiming for. Again, a bit too fast through the first section, so I think next lap we need to adjust and take less speed into the left-hander of that chicane and try and take more speed out of it into this left-hand sort of uphill, downhill, if you like, and try not to let the car snatch on exit. So one of the things we've learned so far, we've learned roughly where a lot of the braking points are. The road goes dark here, which is really convenient. We've sort of learning that we're just taking our time and bleeding off the brakes. We're not causing any excess understeer or oversteer. We're just sort of trying to get used to it. It's a very awkward corner there, which we'll definitely have to get the turning point a bit later. Just trying to get used to how the track feels, and obviously for the first few laps you're going to be looking at the track map, and that's fine. You just remember to do it on the straight, and obviously not as you're going around the corner, and you'll feel yourself not looking at it as much. I'm still looking at it a little bit, just when I'm slightly confused about where I am on the track, but I'm starting to get the hang of this first sector. It's funny that a lot of time people get the hang of the first sector quicker than they do any other sector, even though you probably go around it just as many times. As we take a bit too much curve there, little kick of oversteer, possibly just need to open the steering out a little bit. Into this awkward right-hander, then brake after the curve, turn in probably later than you think. Bit too early there. I did use a bit of throttle there and it kicked the back end round, which is good to know, because if we turn in a little bit later, then we can use that diff, that preload diff that's on there to force the car around. You see our Ghost is getting away from us. That's absolutely fine though. Much slower on entry now, a little bit of off throttle and much better exit. Almost where we want to be there. I can just start to feel it improving as we're sort of braking, trying a new braking point at the beginning of that curve. First gear again, try and keep the car as straight as possible. You see I just opened up the steering coming out of the left-hander, just to keep the car stable when you're changing gear, when it's downhill and off camber. It's a little bit awkward. Try fifth gear here, might give us another gear to sort of get the entry right for this right-hander. Again, I think it's potential that we can use first gear there. Now this, we haven't really talked about this corner, nasty bump on the inside. There's a really nice curve on the left-hand side though to pick your entry for it, to put your braking and turning spots. We try first gear and get a huge kick of oversteer, but you see we actually gained sort of 3.5 tenths there before we got oversteer, so I definitely think first gear's the way forward. So that was the first 5 laps around the track. What do you think we learned? We had a good time sort of figuring out braking points. This left-hander that we're looking at now, really quite simple to get the braking point into there, but there are definitely a few things where we're lacking, and I thought I'd fast forward it to lap that 10 or 11 really, and so we've made some progress. We're in the 42s now, which is obviously a lot faster than what we were running before, sort of mid 43s, and I just wanted to show you what progress we've made. So we're braking just slightly after the 100 metre board. We're still doing this one in second gear. obviously flat through this right-hander, and a little bit wider going into this left-hander, which isn't ideal. You need to take a little bit more curb on the inside there, but I was just trying a line. You can see we lost 3/10 of that, so we now know that we need to stay on the inside, because there's a nasty bump on the outside, and it's really starting to cause us a little bit of issue. Again, 50-meter board here. You see our 4-2-9 ghost ahead of us, where we can. It's really good to use the ghost for this, where you can gain and lose time, and you can instantly see sort of what lines are working for you. A later curb on both of those sections of the chicane. You can see it gained another a tenth there. This one we're still sort of having problems with. Not really sure the entry line still, but something we can definitely discover. And 100% first gear there, and we're back even to our ghost. So you're constantly building that confidence to try new things, and to just keep just edging a little bit closer to the edge of grip. You see, we broke later there than we were earlier in the film. Still second gear, but using a lot more track on the exit. Brake on the curb, turn in nice and neat. On the power really early, and you see we're up again. So all the time we're just gaining confidence, trying to implement what we've been experimenting with earlier in our time. So sort of 10 laps, I'd probably say, start to really push things a little bit more. We're taking half a second off our time that lap, and you're starting to feel where the grip is now. So we've got this first corner pretty much down in terms of a braking point. But there's still loads of time to gain, so a tenth there, even though we did, technically nothing different really. Again, taking this a little, completely different from last lap, even though we got that huge oversteer moment coming up there. We're 3/10 up, so we definitely know, we've confirmed to ourselves that inside line is the way forward. Again, still struggling a little bit with that left-hander, right-hander trying to get the turn in point. It's quite difficult actually, and I think that's definitely something that should be helped with a setup later in time as well, because finding that the car's sort of oversteering a little bit for me there, which is causing me to try a little bit too hard, I think, which is definitely something you should try and avoid during sort of your learning phase of tracks. But just sort of recap on a few things that we went over to get to this point. We took the first few laps sort of, 75% speed, just trying to let off before corners, finding the rough braking point, taking apexes potentially a little bit later, not quite on the limit of grip than you'd usually do, just focusing on that line and trying to bleed into the corners really. It's not crucial to, as we actually take that really nicely, not crucial to be on the limit anywhere near here. You're going to get more value from taking your time doing this and putting some of the points into play, like noting down the references and thinking, okay, we're coming into the first corner. 2 laps ago we broke 10 meters before the 100-meter board. Maybe we can break on the 100-meter board this time. So it's really crucial that you either jot down if your memory works that way, or you think to yourself, oh yeah, we break there last time. Okay, we need to break there again, but slightly different change on the track. So slightly different area as we try going over that curve and open up the steering again, and we're far ahead of our ghost now. So we're starting to get the hang of that first sector really. Turned in nice and late there. Much better line than what we've been using so far, and another 2/10 gained, and it's starting to all fall into place here as I say that we take way too much curb on the inside of the left hand. This dreaded chicane now, we need to remember to take that curb on the inside, but not too much. So that wasn't too bad. We still get a good exit. You can see we lost 2/10, and that's the simple sort of science of it really. If you don't put into practice what you've been sort of teaching yourself and preaching to yourself, then obviously it's you're not going to do too well learning the track, because I've lost half a second on this lap. So we know that we're going to be eking towards low sort of 42s, 41s pretty soon, pretty sharpish, and we've gained sort of the best part of a second and a half in the space of 6 or 7 laps, where we were sort of mid 43s. Definitely something to avoid doing that. We're just experimenting with how early we can sort of turn in for that right-hander, always pushing the boundaries on that sort of thing. And now we know that we need to brake just at the start of the curb, and then just as you come off the brake, so you can maybe do sort of 5 meters of braking, really just dab on, dab off, then is where we turn in, rather than turning in at the same time as braking. Unsettles the back end of the car, and obviously if you hit the sausage curb on the inside, then you're going to do what I did and go off the circuit. Again, we're sort of just trying to find the limit of the grip now. This one's definitely easier to open up the steering. You don't really have to go over the curb, although I do think probably ultimately it'll be faster. And now's the point where we're just starting to push the boundaries. You see, I've sort of oversteered, did a bit of a four-wheel drift throughout that corner just to find where the grip is and really how much throttle you can be on, or what phase in the corner. Our dreaded chicane, our favourite corner, we're still missing that curve on the inside, but we're getting a much cleaner exit. You know, full power all the way through the exit phase of the corner there, whereas earlier on, sort of lap 3, 4, 5, we were very much, you know, dabbing on and off the throttle. Obviously, it's our first few times with the track and the car. So throughout this, you constantly evaluated what you're doing, and now's at the point after 13, 14 laps where you should start thinking about other things. So where can I overtake? What areas of the track can I start to explore more? Are there any sort of astroturfs or curbs that I haven't been on yet, which I should probably try going on? Because at some point when you're racing on this circuit, you're going to be forced onto those, whether it's through your own fault or want to go on them, or another car's fighting with you and pushes you on there. And you need to know that extra information for when you're in those dangerous situations, because it could be the difference between keeping a position, losing a position, and actually staying facing the right way. If you know that a particular Astro is slippery and that you need to probably be on half throttle rather than full throttle, then it's something you need to consider, really. So now is the time to sort of start thinking about how to make those adjustments. There's a lot more room on the exit of that. As we see, we're down to 42.2 now, and I like to do about a 15 lap session, about half an hour, just because, you know, it's easy to concentrate for half an hour. After that, you start to get information overload, really. As you can see, we're still struggling a little bit around that left-hander. It's interesting because we had that pretty much down at the beginning of the video. A little bit too fast on entry still through the chicane, but again, concentrating on getting that smooth exit. Definitely, I mean, there's still so much time in this, but we've made really good progress through this. What I was saying about the half an hour thing, a lot of people, myself included, just get information overload after that half an hour of learning things. Think back to your school lessons, and you know, if you're in a double lesson, it's just difficult to concentrate. You don't want to overload yourself during this learning phase. You want to put a few things into practice, and then off the back of this, you want to write a few things down to see how what you're going to do in your next session. The next time you go on this track, what are you going to implement and put into practice? That's how I find it really effective to learn the circuit. Braking points, surface changes, curbs, bumps, any other sort of danger areas. Bring yourself up to speed smoothly. And guys, I hope that was helpful. As always, any likes and subscribes are welcomed. And until next time, see you guys later.